What's going on? Welcome back to Trending Stocks. Today we're going to talk to you about Faraday Future. This video is going to be more educational rather than anything, only because I've seen an overwhelming amount of posts on social media, people live streaming, just with incorrect information. So I wanted to talk about Faraday and the Nasdaq compliance and where that is all at. So I'm going to go over everything that you need to know, but first make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So at the time of doing this video, which is June the 22nd, it is still under the Nasdaq's non-compliant list for various things. So this 10K has been rectified, so probably the Nasdaq will be taking that off momentarily in the next week or so. And then aside from that, the bid price. So there's two kind of subsections to this. There's the 10-cent bid price rule that they were deficient in, and then the $1 bid price rule. A lot of people said like, well, we have up until June, blah, blah, blah. That is correlated with the $1 bid price rule, not the 10-cent. So I'm going to kind of distinguish both aspects and how each really affected Faraday. And then you have the 10Q. And actually, while I'm on here, I have had some questions in the past. What is FFIEW? That's warrants. So kind of just be aware of that. So starting off, as of right now, the last thing that we do know that Faraday provided us information on was at the end of May, they submitted this document. So it says compliance updates. It says the company has received a grant from the Nasdaq for an extended stay of the suspension pending a hearing with the Nasdaq's hearing panel. So a lot of people took this information right here and said, hey, you know what? They actually are compliant now. This is all good. We're A-okay. And I think just people do not understand exactly what this is saying, because ultimately the Nasdaq wanted to kick off Faraday, and it wasn't due to that $1 bid price rule, because they had up until I think late June, so still they had some time to rectify that deficiency. It was the 10-cent bid price rule. And so ultimately Faraday did appeal that, and you appeal it by paying $20,000, and it goes to a hearing panel on which Faraday needs to approach the hearing panel and say, hey, look, this is our plan to rectify the deficiency, and we are going to do this, and to rectify it and kind of fix everything, right? And then the Nasdaq will say, hey, this is a good plan. You got an extension. You have 6 months to do this. You have 3 months to do this. It's all dependent on the panel, because right now Nasdaq has 100% power over Faraday. They can determine absolutely everything. They can say, you know what, your plan isn't good enough. You know, we do not feel that it's really advantageous to the general public, because the Nasdaq's kind of main point is to protect the public from harm. And so if they think that Faraday is going to do more harm than good, then they could just say no, and instantly it would get knocked down to OTC. Or they could say, yes, we're going to grant you a 3-month extension, 6-month extension, or whatever else. You guys get the mentality. So it all was stemmed from that 10-cent bid price rule. Because as you can kind of see right here, like I said, I'm going to distinguish the two differences of that bid price. This right here does say a company security has a closing bid price of 10 cents or less for 10 consecutive trading days. The listing qualifications department shall issue a staff delisting determination rule under Rule 5810 with respect to that security. So single-handedly, that is why Faraday is in the circumstance it is. A lot of people say it's because of the $1 bid price rule and that the Nasdaq's trying to punish Faraday like prematurely. That is just wrong information. It is because of this 10-cent bid price rule. And so as it stands, we haven't heard from the hearing panel. What we would have is a actual letter, so it'd be submitted to the SEC, so we'd see it that way, saying the Nasdaq has granted a extension, X amount of extension, so it could be 3 months, 6 months, or even possibly longer, or even shorter, and for Faraday to rectify the deficiency. And in all honesty, I know a lot of people might not want to hear this, and this is not FUD, this is just straight up facts. 9 times out of 10, a company does have to do a reverse stock split to rectify the deficiency. That's pretty much the only way the Nasdaq would grant an extension. If a company just says, hey, you know what, we plan on squeezing or we plan on going up naturally, they're just going to say, nope, that's not good enough. You guys are going to get knocked down to OTC. So they do have to say and do a reverse stock split. And with that said, though, I've had some comments in the past saying, can Faraday even do a reverse stock split? Because if we look at this history right here, they have done two. August the 28th, 2023, a 1 for 80, and then March 1st, obviously fairly recent, 2024, a 1 for 3. So yes, they can do a reverse stock split. obviously they'd need shareholder approval, so they'd have to do a shareholder meeting. And then over and above that, if it is passed, then yes, they'd have to and can do another reverse stock split. But there's an asterisk next to that. So if you kind of do the basic math, 80 times by 3, that's 240. So far in the last 2 years, they've done a 1 to 240 ratio. Faraday was smart. There was a reason why they only did a 1 for 3, and that is because of this right here. So excessive reverse stock splits. So ultimately, if a company has done more than a ratio of 1 to 250 in the last 2 years, that means they are not entitled to any of the Nasdaq benefits. Because normally, if a company is deficient on something, they get 6 months to rectify that. If any company is over this ratio, so if it's a 1 to 251 that they've done, and they get deficient with any of the Nasdaq rulings, they get instantly taken down to OTC. So this is why Faraday was rather smart with their decision to do the reverse stock splits that they have done. So in the future, yes, they can do more reverse stock splits. Most likely the Nasdaq is going to require that, but that would put them over this kind of threshold right here. So that does mean that in the future, if Faraday is non-compliant again, they get instantly knocked down to OTC. So this would, for the most part, be their final chance to fix it. And so hopefully I didn't lose a lot of you there. Just wanted to kind of break it down that yes, they can do reverse stock splits in the future, but there's a caveat that you have to be very cautious about. So ultimately, that's kind of where it's at. We should be finding out fairly soon because it does take anywhere from about 45 days to around 60 days for us to hear from the hearing panel because of what they gave at the end of May. Clearly, there was more of an extension. That's probably just Faraday requesting more time to come up with their plan to give to the Nasdaq. But needless to say, we should be finding out within the next month on what exactly the Nasdaq is going to be doing. And so once again, there's different options that could be done. The Nasdaq might just say straight up no, and they get knocked down to OTC. They could say yes with many different options, whatever the Nasdaq does feel as satisfactory to rectify deficiencies. And so there's also one thing that I do want to bring up. So a lot of people said, well, you know what, Faraday ran up like crazy and they were technically over $1. That means they should be a-okay, right? That's technically not correct. And so once again, the Nasdaq does have all the power. They can determine whether it's 10 days all the way up to 20 days. So let's go over here. So this is the excessive reverse stock splits. If we scroll down a little bit more, it does talk on staff discretion related to price-based requirements. So right here, so it says price-based requirements for a period in excess of 10 consecutive business days, but generally no more than 20 business days. So the Nasdaq can determine how long they want Faraday to be above that $1 bid price rule and to rectify the deficiency. So anywhere from 10 to 20 consecutive trading days. So kind of just be aware that once again, those individuals that are kind of acknowledging that Faraday is still on this list, a lot of them are saying 10 consecutive trading days, whereas in reality it is 20. And I've covered some other companies under my other channel, Financial Journey, and they were wanting the 20. So it all depends on where Faraday's at, their rapport with the Nasdaq. If they have good connection, Faraday's been compliant for the most part up until most recently, then the Nasdaq might be more lenient and give them 10. But if for instance, a company is always late all the time with their earnings and just wasn't really giving the Nasdaq the easiest time during this process, the hearing panel could request 20 days. And on a side note, this is something that the public is not aware of and privy to on the how long they want, right? So we could get the Nasdaq hearing panel's kind of results, but we won't actually know whether they choose the 10 days, 15 days, 16, 20, or whatever else. So just wanted to give you guys a full overview of everything that you need to know, possibly where Faraday's at right now and what might be coming in the foreseeable future. So let me know your thoughts on all of that. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up. And with all that, appreciate all of you watching.